So each of these lines, represents information that is sent by this individual crystal, okay? So this individual crystal has its own information, okay? The machine processes this single line of information and it puts it together for us as an image on the ultrasound screen. Okay, so creating a 10 centimeter deep image with 90 individual pulses takes slightly more than 1/100th of a second. So how would you write that in decimals? Just do math.
Oh.
Point zero one.
Oh.
1 over 100, 0.01. Or okay, so we have mechanical transducers. In DMS, do we use mechanical transducers?
No. No.
What do you think is mechanical about it? What does mechanical mean to you? When you think of mechanical, what do you think?
Like
Moving
old.
parts.
Old.
What's that? Old. Man, what's with you and old today? Old man. You're cutting me deep.
Sorry.
Okay, so movement, right? Okay, so what do we want to move in our ultrasound images or in our imaging? What needs to move?
Like inside the crystal?
Okay, yes, the crystal. Okay, so is the crystal physically gonna move
No.
with a mechanical
Yes.
transducer?
Oh,
Yes, it does. Okay, so why do we want our crystals to move?
It distorts.
Yeah.
To create a, to
The
send the
sound
sound wave.
It distorts and create a vibration.
No. Okay, so we want the piezo electric effect for sure, right? But we're talking about the movement of the crystal itself. Okay, so let's say that I want to steer my beam to the left or steer it to the right. Is there something in the transducer that does that for us when we're imaging?
Yeah.
In the left?
Lens.
No, not the acoustic lens.
The
And
crystal.
it is not mechanically steered, it's electronically steered, okay? This one is the actual crystals moving from side to side. Okay, so what else do we want to move when we're talking about our sound beam?
The focus.
The focal point, right? Okay, so these mechanical transducers actually have a crystal that's a disc shape, and then it has up to 5 different crystals of varying sizes that will create the focus. Okay, but the mechanical transducer contains a single circular disc-shaped active element that is physically moved. Okay, there's an actual motor in there that moves the crystal from side to side. Okay. The image created is a fan or sector shape. Okay, remember, mechanical transducers form a fan or sector shape. With greater depth occurs. Okay. So with greater depth, greater attenuation occurs. Okay, not greater depth. Okay, the image is made by rotating the PZT with a motor. Okay, motor mechanical steering. Okay, what do mechanics fix? Motors. Okay, it has a fixed focus. 2 methods of fixed focus are internal and external focusing. Okay, also, we said an acoustic lens, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so a lens, is that internal or external focusing?
External.
External, okay, so what would internal be?
Crystal tissue.
The crystal is itself that has a shape, right? Okay, so if the PZT is damaged in this 2D, in this type of 2D imaging, the entire image is lost.
Yeah.
Okay, now we have transducer arrays, which are the types of transducers that we use in diagnostic medical sonography. Okay, these are the types of transducers that you guys use in lab. So they contain multiple active elements. If you compromise a single slab of PZT, it's composed. Okay, it's composed of a single slab of PZT cut into a collection of several pieces called elements. Okay, so they formed this crystal. Then they cut that crystal into smaller individual elements. Okay? So each element has its own electronic circuit and is separate from the other elements. This is called a channel.
I have a question.
Yes.
So for the crystals, is it like all the same sizes? It has to be exact, or do they have?
It depends on what type of probe it is, right?
Yeah.
Because what are the two elements that determine the frequency of the probe?
The speed and the thickness.
Yes. Okay, so the crystal speed and the thickness of that crystal, right? So a linear probe will have a different size and a different propagation speed.
No,
from
I'm
that-
saying like in the linear probe, is it all the same?
Oh, yes, they're all the same.
In
They're
every
all the
probe?
same. In every probe, those crystals are the same.
Like exactly the same size and like shape, or?
They would have to be the same size and the same shape because they're using one mathematical equation to make our image.
Thank you.
Okay, there are three types of array transducer. We have the linear array, which is that flat one that's used for small parts, right? Or for superficial imaging. We have annular. When you think of annular, what do you think of? See the record?
No.
What?
Like
Oh, like the annular
Like a
annular
sun.
pancreas? Is that what you're thinking of?
Round.
Like it wraps around it?
Okay, so what's the Spanish word for this?
Anillo.
Anillo. Okay, which is
Oh my
a
god.
ring, right?
Yeah, round.
Round. Okay. Yeah. So I had a student. Was it in your class, Jalen, where they said anal?
I think so.
Round too,
You know what?
Yeah.
Alright, that works.
Yeah, because we asked them, so what do you guys think when you hear anal? Like, anal? I'm like, well, I mean, I guess you're not wrong. Okay, so annular, right? A circle. Okay, anillo. Okay, so the elements are arranged as circular rings with a common center. Okay, so they have one solid disc in the middle, and they have rings around that solid disc in the middle. Okay, that vary from that change in size from the inside to the outside. And then we have a convex probe, which is like a linear probe, but it's curved outward, right? Which makes our image shape like a blunted pie shape, right? Okay, so we have linear phased arrays. Okay, so linear phased arrays are small and they have no moving parts. Okay, so how do we steer the linear phased arrays?
Up
Like
and down.
phasing?
Huh? Yeah, it's just phasing, well, it's phasing.
It's like a time delay, like the
Yeah.
crystals are in sequence, like that.
That's
That's what you're
exact-
talking about, it goes from outer to inner, inner to
Yeah.
outer.
Okay, so that's exactly it, okay. So if you notice this right here, phase arrays, right? Okay, so it's able to create that shape because, like Gold said, there is a sequence in which those crystals are initiated or fired. Okay, so if we start from this side to this side, that's gonna make
Thank you.
our sound beam steer this way. And if we steer it from this side to this side, it's gonna make it steer the opposite direction, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how it's able to get that image, okay, by electronic steering or by phasing. Okay, so what does it mean to be? So what are phases? Like I'm in my emo phase.
Like an
A
ear.
stage, right? It's a stage, it's kind of like a cycle, right? But it starts with the beginning and then it ends and then it moves on to another phase, right? Okay, right? Kind of like a butterfly
Metamorphosis.
metamorphosis. Okay, so those are phases, right? So it's an egg, it turns into a caterpillar, and then the caterpillar gets hungry and it eats the leaves, and then it turns into a chrysalis, and then a pupa, and then it turns into a butterfly, right? It goes through phases, okay? So these crystals are fired in phases, okay? They can have anywhere between 100 to 300 elements, okay? And what's an element?
Crystal.
A crystal, right? A crystal. The image created is a fan or a sector shape. A damaged PCT can result in inconsistent beam steering and focusing. Okay, so this means that if a crystal is damaged, this information is going to be lost. Now, what will it look like on our screen? Blank. It'll be a black line all the way down from top to bottom. Okay, so if we see that dark artifact from top to bottom in a straight line, there is a crystal that is damaged. Okay, so the GE has a crystal that is damaged on the linear probe. Okay, so if you notice with some type of modalities, you'll have a dark line. And with some other modalities, you don't. Why is that?
The function of the crystal?
What's that?
The functioning of the crystal?
Yeah, it's a functioning of the crystal, okay? So on one setting, that crystal is used, so that's why we get that dark image all the way down. But on another setting, that crystal isn't used, so our image looks fine. Okay, so that doesn't mean that the crystal gets better and turns off and on. That just means that that crystal is being used for a specific types of imaging. Okay, and here we have our annular phased arrays. Okay, so like I mentioned before, we have one center disk, and surrounding that center disk is rings of PZT, right? These are actual elements. Okay, elements appear disk-like. There are multiple rings with a common center. The beam is mechanically steered. What does it mean by mechanically steered?
It's not electronic.
Something moves it, okay? It's not electronic, there's something physically moving the crystals. Okay, so if they're completely flat, have you guys seen like those wind chime thingies that were like, it's like a bunch of different cuts and it's flat, but then you can open it up like a fan,
Bless you.
Thank you.
and then it like turns into like a 3D structure? You guys know what I'm talking about? No? Let me see if I can find it.
Do we have one of, an annular transistor?
No.
Is this still used to this day?
That I know of, I don't know that it's discontinued, but I haven't heard or seen of any clinics have one. So they're kind of like this. So if we put all of those flat together, it would make just like a flat image, right? But if we activate them all at the same time, it creates a cylinder, right? So if we were to cover this with a piece of paper, what shape would that paper be? It'd be a cylinder, right? So if we wrap the paper around from front to back, and we slid that paper off, it would be in the shape of a cylinder, right? Okay, so that's exactly how these elements create that sound beam. Okay, so instead of it being a flat sector like that, it actually turns into a cylinder.
35 bucks.
What's that?
For 35 bucks.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so when a PZT is damaged, only the area where that PZT is working is affected. Okay, so again, it would look like a dark line. Okay, now we have linear sequential arrays. Okay, so this one has a large acoustic footprint and creates a rectangular image. Okay, so what type of probe is this like?
Linear.
Linear, right? Okay, linear probe, which we use for vascular, small parts, and MSK, right? It has 120 to 250 rectangular shaped elements. Okay, so they're like rectangles, but they're standing up. So everybody see this? Okay, these are rectangles. Is a rectangle good or bad?
Good.
Oh.
It
It's
depends.
good. It's good, but we can make it better. Okay, because remember how we have axial and lateral resolution? We also have elevational resolution or slice thickness resolution. So the taller the crystal, the poorer the spatial or elevational resolution. Okay, so this does beam steering, okay? Beam steering, that means that the elements are fired in groups. Okay, so phasing is the individual crystals being fired. Beam steering are groups of elements, okay? So they could have like 10 elements firing at the same time. So beam focusing is achieved electronically. Okay, so for the linear probe, those groups of elements that are fired from left to right would cause the beam to be steered to the left, right? And then if it would fire from right to left, then the beam would be steered to the right. Okay? Okay, now with focusing, okay, so focusing is different than steering, right? Yes? How?
Like
But that-
focusing is when the sound beam starts to narrow.
Yeah, okay, the depth. Okay, so our steering just tells us which way to steer the beam. The focusing will tell us how deep to put our focus at. And what is our focus?
What goes on?
What is our focus?
The narrowest part of the room.
The narrowest part of the beam. And it's where, what resolution is the best? Lateral resolution is the best. Okay, so it's achieved electronically, which means like beam steering and phasing, the machine tells the crystals when to turn on. Okay, so so this is the firing pattern of this transducer. If I made the firing pattern where these turn on fast and then these take longer to turn on, what happens to our focus? If our circle is more prominent,
More narrow.
it's more narrow and more shallow. Okay, so our focus would be over here if our curve was higher. But this one isn't too curved, right? It's kind of flat, so that means that our focus would be deeper. Okay, and how are these crystals turned on? Electronically, okay? But are they turned on at the same time?
No.
In groups.
No, for the focusing,
Oh.
No.
They're turned on one by one, but are they turned on from the outside in or from the inside out?
Outside.
The outside in, that's what gives us our concave shape, right? Which gives us our hourglass shaped sounding. Okay. So these transducers can transmit focus and receive focus. Okay, what do you think that means? Transmit focus and receive focus. Gold,
Yes.
do you have an idea?
No, I don't.
Yep. Okay. Allison? Yeah. Ready? Emily?
Want me to guess?
Yeah.
It sends out things and receives them.
Yeah, it's there. Okay, transmit focusing and receive focusing. Okay, so we have a bandwidth, right, when we send out waves, right? Because of what?
Because of the width of the,
Why do we have a bandwidth? What makes a bandwidth?
The
Come on, you guys, you can just say something this week.
the different types of,
The backing layer, okay? So there's a bandwidth because of the backing layer.
Yeah.
Okay, but that backing layer isn't just there, you know, the machine can tell it how sensitive to be. Okay, so the machine can say, so let's just say that we have a bandwidth with a fundamental of 5 megahertz, but our bandwidth is 6 megahertz, right? So that means, or 4 megahertz. So that means it can go all the way up to 9 and all the way down to 1. Okay? So our machine could tell our probe, send out only 8 megahertz. And only listen for echoes of 8 megahertz. Okay, so that's transmit focusing and receive focusing. Okay, it's not focusing for like the depth, it's focusing on the frequencies that are sent and received. Okay, we have a convex array transducer. What is this? A ladder. Very good. Okay, so it has 120 to 250 elements. The image is a blunted sector. What does it mean by blunted?
Not sure.
Squished.
Someone says something? Not sure?
Not sure.
Not sure. Okay, not sure. So have you heard of blunt force trauma?
Yes.
Okay, so that means that they were hit with something that is not sharp because it damaged an entire area. Okay, so hitting someone in the head with a bat was different than hitting them in the head with
a bone
a
arrow.
knife. Okay. Okay, so we can see that this point is not sharp, it's blunted, right? Okay, so this is a blunted sector. Because a sector is like a pipe. In convex array, some but not elements are fired. The curve shape causes the pulses to travel in different directions. The beam is focused electronically. Okay, so since this transducer has a curved face, it's going to send the elements out in this type of pattern. Okay, but it's so what makes it shape is the actual element shape or the transducer shape. Okay, it's not being fired in that direction. Okay, it's not sequential or it's not phased. It's because of the crystal shape. And we have vector arrays. Okay, so the vector arrays is a combination of linear, sequential, and linear phase. Okay, so sequential is what?
Groups
Groups fired in a sequence. Phased is what?
individually,
Individual what?
crystals or.
Crystals are fired in a specific pattern, right? Okay, so this is a combination of both linear sequential and linear phase. Where do we use this type of transducer?
Heart.
Yes. Okay, so we use this for the heart,
Echoes,
for echoes. We use this for transcranial Doppler
yeah.
to the head. And then we also use this for the neonatal head. Do you guys know what neonatals are? or neonates, I mean,
Baby. In the stomach.
freshly born, okay?
Okay, also.
Neo means new, and natal means baby. Okay, so like they're fresh out of the oven, okay? So that means that their cranium
Oh, it's
hasn't,
not developed.
yeah, it hasn't developed all the way, so there's still like those soft spots,
Yeah,
right? So we can actually scan through the baby's head
yeah.
to look for, brain bleeds, okay? So we're doing premature babies at that point,
Yeah,
babies that are like the size of a water bottle.
yeah.
They're tiny. Those are the most stressful freaking exams. I hate those exams. Yes.
So delicate.
Not for this, but for like cranial exams, do you have to shave their head?
No,
No?
no, it's gonna be transtemporal, transorbital, or occipital.
Oh, so we would never scan it all right on top of the head?
No,
Okay.
Except for neonatal babies. where you-
except for neonates, because they still have that
Yeah.
organ that's open. There's some like that have a soft spot on their head, and you can tell.
You can see it pulsing, you can see the brain.
Yeah, it's
That's my birth control.
yeah, yeah. So those adults that have that soft spot on their head, you can tell because of their test grades. Okay.
I laughed a little too hard.
Okay, so this uses electronic steering and focusing, which means what? That it is not steered or focused
Mechanic.
mechanically, okay? It is steered because the machine tells the crystals when to turn on and off. And the image is trapezoidal.
So like in the linear ones, it's just the square?
Yes,
Okay.
not a square, it's a rectangle.
Oh, right.
Rectangle. A square would be a perfect size, right?
Yeah.
But it's short here but long. Okay, so it's a rectangle. This is a trapezoid. Oops. This is a blunted sector. And this is a sector. This is a sector. Okay, that's like a slice of pie or like a pizza slice, right? Okay, sector. This is our rectangular shape for the linear. This is our blunted sector, and this is our vector. Okay, you guys got it? Okay, that's it for today. Again, if you have questions, let me know, please.